Hello everybody, welcome to the Sound Test Room. Today we're going to take a look at creating the classic gated reverb drum effect that seems to be become quite popular again lately. So it was all over the 80s, you know, made popular by Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins, particularly on In the Air Tonight. Reportedly accidentally damaged, I think it was recorded at the Townhouse, the drums, and I think it was accidentally discovered by Hugh Padgham, the producer, with a new SSL desk and talkback mic, and I don't know. There's some really cool videos about it anyway, but which I watched and got that information from, as you do. But that's basically kind of what happened. It was discovered by mistake, and it's an epic effect. You know, you'll know it straight away. Anyway, I am using a bass drum two separate LD1 classic tracks from the classic machines in Cubasis, the Lindrum, which is just gonna have a swig of coffee here, chaps. There you go. And we're going to apply the gated reverb in this first instance we'll do to the drums. Now, let me tell you, honestly, gated reverb was done to death in the 80s, but does seem to be making a comeback now. Some people are using it again. So we shall I'll show you how to do it. So basically, it's pretty straightforward, really. What you're doing is I'm applying a reverb to the drums here, ludicrously large. The larger the better, and then a noise gate to the snare. So what's happening is excuse me just one sec. Sorry, what's happening is that because we're using a noise gate now, you can mess around with limiters and compressors to get this effect and the thresholds and ratios and stuff like that, but just use a noise gate, it's easier. I'm using Steinberg's standard built-in noise gate, and it's fantastic. It's like all the Steinberg effects and Cubasis that I love them. Anyway, so this whole thing is now created within Cubasis' app. So you can see what's happening is the reverb is coming, and it's basically hitting a wall where it's not allowed to go any further, and the noise gate is killing it dead. So let's play around with the settings. So you can see that the range here is set on 0. The attack is set fairly low. The release is set pretty low as well. Output is neither here nor there, really. That's just how loud you want your mix to output onto the master. And then, I mean, you can mess around with that, won't make any difference to the sound. And then the threshold is important too. So let's play around with the settings here. So let's set that about there just so we can hear what we're doing. So first of all, we'll mess around with the attack. We'll take everything down to 0. So what's happening there, like a compressor, the noise gate is coming into effect, and straight away, because the attack is, if you can kind of imagine that this noise gate is running all the time, regardless of where the attack and release are set. It makes no difference. But because the attack is set at 0, it's switching itself on straight away. It's not switching itself on, it's already on. It's coming into effect immediately because the attack is at 0. So wherever else the settings are set on or what have you, the noise gate is kicking in immediately. Okay, now the release time, if that's set on 0, then you'll get the very, very, very hard gating. Okay, as we increase the release, it takes longer for the kicked in effect to fade away, just like a compressor. until we get to the point where the reverb tail is shorter than the actual where it wants to kill it like. So let's go with the other way. Let's go with the attack. Now the attack works the opposite way as the release. It decides that when the effect is gonna take effect, sort of thing. So you can control how your effect sounds very, very precisely with the attack and release. So what does the range do? Okay, so let's set everything on 0 again and then just play with the range. So the range is a mixture of, is basically a kind of a blend, okay, between your wet affected, your completely wet signal and your dry signal. But because it's a transparent effect, right, hang on a second, I need another cup of coffee. It's not like a flange is wet and dry, where if a flanger was full on wet, you would hear the flange massively. And then if you blended it between, but because this is a transparent effect, it means that the sound will still be the same basically. It's just that how much of your attack and release and your threshold settings are taken into effect. So 50% will be basically half and half of everything, a mixture of the wet and dry signal. But because we've got everything hard set, we want the range on 0, so we basically want it full wet. Attack and release pretty low, and will give that classic kind of gated effect, but then you can play around with the attack and release. Okay, let's do one more example. And like I said, I only ever use this on drums. It just sounds pants on everything else, to be fair. Let me see. I've got this thing I did yesterday. We'll just play with the drums. So what it is, apply here to this track. So first of all, we will apply this reverb here, and it'll be quite heavy duty, I would imagine. Let's just solo the drums. Okay. So ridiculously, and we've got a 50-50 mix on that as well, so that's called cool beans. Now let's add a limiter here, and not a limiter. Don't want a limit. Do we want a noise gate? Let's apply a noise gate here. And first of all, we'll start with everything sort of set around 50-50 for the attack and release, and we'll leave it at 20 dB. We'll leave the output at normal 0. 0.0. Anything above that, we're starting to expand. But anyway, look, I digress from this. What we're going to check that, yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to decrease the range as it goes, and see what. Now this is limiting the whole kit. Not something I would really want to do with this track, but for the purposes of the demo, it's cool beans. Okay. So you see, you're gonna have to play around with the controls and the threshold before this starts to kick in, and then it's going to be a fine balance to get it sound right. Now, again, I would recommend not using this on a full kit, not something with a lot of dynamics going on and stuff like that. You know, it's just too much for it to deal with. It kind of like it's not knowing where it's limiting, what gating this, how, you know, but it just gives you a clue of basically how that you can gate it. Now, that effect is extreme. Noise gates are incredibly useful on things like vocals where there is noise, because it will stop the noise from coming through, you know, at a certain point. This is extreme. Just, you understand what it's an extreme use of the noise gate, gating reverb. But like a noise gate, you don't have to have it extreme. You know, you can have it like mild. Many of these effects were originally created for mildness, not over extreme use. Because compressors and gates and all the rest of it were invented years and years ago, before all EDM and everything took over and started using incredibly interesting uses for all these effects, you know. Anyway, guys, 12 minutes, that's enough. I will see you guys. I don't like the effects on that. This sounded much, actually, this was a track, but this sounded much nicer without all the effects. Especially when the bass came in. Anyway, if you want to hear that, it's there in another big mixy funky thing, video thing. Anyway, that's how it was made. Right, thank you for watching. If you liked it, give the video a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel or becoming a patron. Thank you, and I will see you guys later.